Hi, I'm Alexander Maxim from UtopianIO. Today we will continue our series about PHP. We'll check the array walk, current, next, prev, and reset methods. Let's start with the array walk method. What's the array walk method? This method applies the callback function defined by the user to each element of the array. This method is not affected by the internal pointer of the array. It will be applied to the entire array regardless of the pointer location. It has two parameters. The first is the array. The second is the callback function defined by the user. Typically takes two parameters. The first is the array parameter. The second is the key or the index. And the third parameter for the callback function is the user data. If the user data parameter is available, it will be passed as a third parameter to it. The array walk returns the true value when it succeeds or false when it fails to execute. Let's take an example to understand how it works. Let's use a comment array walk, and we'll use the echo to print a title h3 hidden. Inside I will print the array walk. Then I want to create an array called review, indexed array. So we have an array called review. All the elements has the type number, so they are all the elements with the type number 20, 30, 10, etc. I want to create after that a function called multiplication. I will pass num as parameter. I will use echo to print the number. I will use the num passed as parameter, and I will concatenate it with the word or this sentence multiplied by 2 equals to, and I will use num multiply by 2 then the br. After that I will use the array walk function. I will pass the review as parameter. So the array walk has two parameters, the callback function and the array. So, and the function name or the callback function is multiplication. Let's reload and see results. So we have the array walk as a title, and I have used the echo to print the number multiplied by 2, etc. So we have the number multiplied by 2. So what or how the array walk method works. So we have our array of numbers. It will firstly test if there is elements in our array. So we have elements here. We will pass firstly the array and the function as parameter to the array walk method. The array walk method will firstly get the value of the first element and pass it to the callback function. Why? Because here the callback function has the value num as parameter. So it will passes from the first to the last element and pass all the elements one after the other to the callback function. So in the function depends to your example. So in our example, I will use the echo method to multiply these elements by 2. So this value by 2. This is the example that I want, or that I have explained. So the function is the multiplication. Briefly, the array walk will take this array and this function, pass all the elements of the array to this function as parameter. So the num is in the first time is 20, then 30, 10, etc. And the function will use the echo to print the num, and multiplied by 2 is the num. 20 multiplied by 2 is 40, and this is the result. So 20 multiplied by 2 is 40, 30 multiplied by 2 is 60, etc. And it will pass from the first to the last element of the array, and this is the array walk method. After the array walk method, we have the current method. What's the current method? So the current method, for each array contains an internal pointer each array contains an internal pointer that points to the current element, which initially refers to the first element in the array. It has the array as parameter. The current method simply returns the value of the array element to which the internal pointer is currently pointing. The cursor function does not move in any way if the internal cursor pointer beyond the end of the list of elements, or if the array is empty, it returns the false value. This method may return the logical value false, but may also return an illogical value that evaluates with the same false value. Let's take an example to understand what's the current method. So let's use a command. We have the current, and I will use echo to print each 3 elements, and we have current, next, and prev. Inside, I will create an array of persons or team. It's an array. So we have an array of team. We have 6 persons. I will now use the echo method to print the current element, and I will pass the team as parameter. Let's reload and see the results. So the current element is person 1. Why we get this result? So this is our array. We have values in our array. The pointer points firstly to the first element of the array. The current method briefly gets the value that the pointer points on. So the pointer points on the first value in the array. So the current method will get this value here, and we will use the echo to print the value of the current method. This is the current method. After the current method, we have the next method. What's the next method? The next method behaves the same way as the current method, with one difference. The internal array index advances one place forward before returning the value of the element. This means that it returns the value of the next element of the array and moves the internal array pointer by one place forward. It returns the value of the array element at the next location indicated by the internal array pointer, or false if there are no other elements. Let's take an example to understand the next method. So after it, I will use the break line tag. Then I will use the echo to print the next value. Let's reload and see, and we have person 2. So in our array we have person 1, then the next element is person 2. So let's use the next again, and I will pass the team as parameter. I will use echo to print the current element. Let's reload and see results. So firstly, let's use the break line here, and here also. And let's reload, and this is the first element, the current. This is the next element, and this is the next of the next elements. Let's see how it works. So firstly, the pointer points on the first element, and the current method gets the value that the pointer points on. Great. When we we use the next method, we will pass the array as parameter. The next method will check the pointer and advances it one place. So the pointer firstly points on the first value. Now it will point to the next value. When we use the current method, it will return the value that the pointer points on, which is the next value. You can also use the echo directly with the next method because it returns the value, and also it changed the pointer. It changes the pointer from the first value to the next value. And also we have used the next another time, and the pointer will be for the third value, and for that we have the person 3 value. This is the next method. After that we have the prev method. What's the prev method? This method returns the internal array pointer back. It behaves the same way as the next method, but it delays the internal array pointer one place back instead of advancing it. The method returns the value of the array elements at the previous position indicated by the internal pointer, or false if there are no other elements. It has just the array as parameter. So let's take an example to understand the prev method. I will use the prev, and we pass the team array. Then I will use the current method to get the current value. I will concatenate it with the break line. Let's reload and see, and we have the person number 2. So we have person 1, the next we'll get the person 2, person 3, then when we use the person the prev method, we will get the person number 2. How it works. So when we use the prev method, the pointer, for example, points on this value. The prev will delay the internal pointer, and the pointer will point to the previous value. This is our current value. So when we use this method, our current value will be this value. So we will get the previous value, the previous element, and this is the prev method. After the prev method, we have the AND method. What's the AND method? The AND method moves the internal pointer of the array to the last element in it, and returns its value. It has the array as parameter. This array passes the reference because the function modifies it, which requires you to pass a real variable, not a function that returns an array, because only the actual variables can be passed by reference. This method returns the value of the last item or the false value if the array is empty. Let's take an example to understand the AND method. So after the current, we'll use the AND, and we'll pass the array as a reference of the array as parameter, and we'll use the current and team here. Let's reload and see the results. So we have person number 6. Our team array starts from the person number 1 to the last person, which is the person number 6. So the AND method will return the last element in the array. The pointer, for example, points on this value. Using the AND method, the pointer will point to the last value. So the current will be this value. And this is the AND method. Great. After that, we have the reset method. What's the reset method? This method moves the internal pointer of the array to its beginning, in which the value of the first element is restored. It has the array as parameter, and it returns the value of the first array element, or false if the array is empty. This method may return the logical value false, but may also return an illogical value that evaluates with the same false value. Let's take an example. I will use echo directly, and I will use the method reset. I will pass the array as parameter, and let's reload and see the result, and we're back to the first element. Let's see how it works. So if the pointer points in the last item, using the reset method, the pointer will point to the first element, and the current method will get the value of this item. Also, the reset will get the value that the pointer points on actually, and this is the first value. So the reset will return the first value of the array here. Today we have learned the array walk, current, next, prev, and reset methods.